So here we are in the Melbourne Dallas Brookes Center Library with the eminent Peter Thornton, Masonic author, historian, and general wise man. He has consented to be gracious enough to give me some time for an interview. And would you like to say hello to the brethren of America?
Hello, America.
All right, excellent.
Isn't it interesting?
It is.
A wise man is a very intelligent person, and a wise guy is someone you don't want to know.
So my first question I'd like a little comment on is these two emblems here. I'll start with the one on the left.
Yep.
Now this is the mark.
Yes.
And can you give me just a little blurb on the iconography we're seeing here? It's the King Solomon's Temple vault.
It's the vault of King Solomon's Temple. Yep. And those who are installed masters in the marked degree will understand the significance of what takes place in that vault.
I have not yet gone into the mark, so I'm technically not, although I've read, of course, various exposés, I'm not technically allowed to be aware. Just one question about the symbolism here on the pedestal, which I would assume is the similar pedestal to what we find in the Royal Arch, since we're going into the vault.
Yes.
We have the zodiac band around this pedestal.
Yes.
Why would that be?
Okay, let's get these two, and the one next to it, the Royal Arch one. Let's get these two in a context.
Okay.
They were, the one on the left was produced by regalia manufacturers, people in England.
1700s, 1800s?
1800s, late 1800s. Mm-hmm. To give an idea of what the, to give a mark tracing board type of setup. Mm-hmm. So why they put certain symbols on the various places is entirely up to them.
Aha.
The zodiac is not beyond the use in Freemasonry. Some of the temples, particularly in New South Wales, have got the zodiac signs around the building. Mm-hmm. The zodiac is part of astronomy. It's part of the 7 liberal arts and sciences. And of course it goes back to the so-called Egyptian mysteries, which we are supposed to have an affinity with. Indeed.
Now, is there a specific correlation, I know there is, between the 12 tribes and the 12 signs of the zodiac?
Well, of course there is. Any 12s have got a correlation. 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 disciples,
Right, and here I am now on the right now on the Royal Arch.
Okay.
And we have the 12 tribes with their banners around the altar.
Yes.
And now it's interesting here. One thing I'm really curious about is the difference in the pavement in the arch. It's called the perspective view of the pavement. It's kind of like you're looking into a corridor. Do you know what that's about?
Well, you're looking down into the vault is the idea.
So that's why it's in perspective.
Yes.
Instead of the flat tessellated board, which you see in the mark, and which we also see generally in the Blue Lodge.
Yes, that's right. That again is a design that was put out by a regalia manufacturer people
in probably same era, 1800s,
late 1800s, to demonstrate, it was a display board to show all the material they had for people who were setting up new Royal Arch chapters.
Right.
So in no way are either of those official.
Now, what does official mean in that context?
Official means that the Grand Lodge has approved it, or the Grand Chapter has approved it.
I see.
In the marked degree in Victoria, we have official tracing boards that have been approved by Grand Lodge.
I see. And so these are almost ubiquitous, these boards, and so essentially it's a decision made by an unaccountable regalia manufacturer that ends up getting replicated endlessly in a lot of the iconography. And I would say you can easily see here, perhaps, how certain elements of Freemasonic symbolism can be totally hijacked, per se, by somebody who has a brilliant idea one day, right? And he just happens to be a manufacturer of regalia.
Yep.
And so here I am 200 years later wanting to know the exact detail of the symbolic meaning of this and that when
we don't know.
We have no idea.
We have no idea. Yeah. That's right.
Okay, let's go over here to these charts we have up on the wall. This one in particular, can you give me a little background on this one in the middle, which has the 3 men standing there?
No, I can't.
You can't?
Again, that sort of thing is American. Again, manufacturers or booksellers in America put out their versions of diagrams
right.
of various Masonic symbols. You've got that one, you've got another one that you probably will have a look at later, the Light and Truth one.
Mm-hmm.
We've got that one. They're all simply designs, again, like we were talking about, produced by one particular person.
Yep.
And then when Freemasonry was at a peak, people would buy them.
Right.
Hang them on their walls, do all sorts of things with them. But again, they're not official, although they've got many Masonic, when I say many, lots of Masonic symbols on them. But what was put on them was purely, again, at the whim of the person doing the design.
I see.
And, McCoy's, the big publishing companies in America, McCoy's and all those, you could probably still buy them from them, for all I know.
Do you have any idea what some of these symbols would mean? Particularly down at the bottom here, you have a kind of house-like structure with a pyramid on top of a cube. There's a star in the pyramid. It's right at the very bottom in the middle.
Yep. Oh, the pyramid is a symbol that is, particularly in America, is very strong in Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm. As in the Great Seal of the U.S., for example.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. So that's very strong, and the sort of
I'm just intrigued by the pyramid over the cube, and if there's any particular meaning, Masonically speaking. I mean, that has alchemical significance that I've actually been studying in independent research. But I'm just so shocked to see it in a Freemasonry context after I've been studying the alchemical interpretations.
well, alchemy and Freemasonry are not that far apart.
Right.
I mean, they both use allegory. And look, Masonic symbols, to a large extent, are a bit like beauty. They're in the eye of the beholder. And how you interpret the Masonic symbol is primarily up to the person who's viewing it. And any perfect geometric figure falls into place in Freemasonry, whether it's a square, a cube, an equilateral triangle, pyramid, a hexagram, pentagram, you name it. And they're all there that you philosophise on. That's really how I see them. Mm-hmm. So you've got those, all those figures that are on that particular diagram and on all others. Mm-hmm. Somebody at some stage will give you a meaning on them.
But it may not necessarily be the meaning.
No.
And the meaning may not even exist.
The meaning doesn't exist. You're right there.
Now, what about just briefly on the circle? You see these two circles with triangles in them at the top. And there's letters around this one on the right. Similar to what you see, the iconography, Hiram the widow's son sent to King Solomon.
That's
you see the first letter.
Yeah, same sort of thing.
But do you know what that stands for? TSR, TD, C, TA, V. I have no idea myself. I'd never seen that particular.
I don't even know. I can't even read them from here.
Yeah, it says TSR, TDC, TAV.
No idea off the top of my head.
Yeah, and so again, this guy comes up with this board hundreds of years ago, and then here I am trying to get the answer on it, which doesn't exist.
They probably took it out of a book called the Masonic Chart, where the Masonic Chart had, or the Master's Chart was another name for it, all sorts of symbols with various interpretations of their meaning in Masonry. Mm-hmm. And somebody's got hold of all those symbols and said, well, let's, instead of having them all in a book on separate pages, let's get them all on one particular diagram.
I see.
And although your friends who I'm talking to mightn't appreciate this statement, various American authors had various interpretations of these things, where some were about as close to reality as pig elephants, but that's fine.
They may be popular, in the pop consciousness of whoever they're selling the idea to at that time.
That's right.
Maybe the particular group that this chart was concocted, for primarily, they might have had special affinity for these symbols for totally different reasons.
Yes.
And they get assimilated into a big chart, and then the context is lost, and then hundreds of years later, we're trying to figure out what the answer is.
That's right. The context is gone.
The context is gone.
But, this is the other one that I mentioned.
Yeah, that's a very beautiful one up there, too.
Yeah, I mean, the light isn't good, but...
actually, I can see it pretty good in this light, actually.
That's covered with all sorts of symbols. The all-seeing eye at the top, and, scenes and as I said, various symbols that are used in Freemasonry. And there's a number of these type of things that have been put out, as I said, in America in particular, during the say the second half of the 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Stacks of them.
Indeed.
So, yeah.
I see. All right, okay, now actually, I'm going to pause just briefly. I'll set up my tripod so we can just relax and